Appendix C. Fevers, their causes, and aids, and the cold sheet treatment therapy. What causes a fever in the body? When excess mucus, toxic materials, drug accumulations, poisons, and other undesirable materials accumulate within the body. The body's natural reaction is to unload this material before it reaches a high enough level to cause death. The body then reacts with colds, smallpox, measles, chickenpox, or some other childhood disease. The first indication of disease that generally appears is a fever. What is the cause of a fever during a child's teething period? To raise enough temperature to move the bodybuilding materials from one part of the body to a malfunctioning area. Which organic element can be a wonderful aid to a teething child? Calcium. How can we work with a fever instead of against it? The only thing we recommend as a natural way of gaining health are herbs, which are foods, and helpful therapies that have been used for centuries. A pleasant herbal tea, red raspberry leaf, and yarrow are specifics here. Can be the answer when the fever is just starting, because it may be a minor condition or just a common cold. Name two herbs that are specifics for a fever in its early stages: red raspberry leaf and yarrow. Which three herbs compose the herbal tea that can be given to a small child for constipation during a fever? China rhubarb, also called Turkey or India rhubarb, comfrey root, and licorice root. Should we worry about a child's loss of appetite for solid foods during a fever? No. Explain a tea party theory. While the child is off solids, give him, in addition to juices, as many cups of red raspberry leaf tea during the day as he can drink. Sweeten it with honey, and he will enjoy it. If the adult does not use the negative approach, that is, here is some more of that yucky herb drink. If the parents if the parent is wise, this can be a wonderful opportunity to get closer to the child and have a tea party. Drinking the tea together, both will benefit. What kind of nourishment can we safely give to a feverish child? The red raspberry leaf tea is high in a number of organic, natural, and healing minerals and vitamins, and as a fine herbal liquid food for the body. Keep the child on juice and ripe fresh fruit for a day or two, and then gradually onto the mucusless diet. Recount an early story of a peasant who inadvertently took Reverend Snip's water cure. A peasant was heading home on a bare a peasant was heading home on foot with miles to go. He was racked with fever and cold. He was racked with fever, cold, and lumbago while crossing a stream over a long over a log for a bridge. He slipped and fell into the icy cold water, and as we did drenched and was drenched to the skin. It was a bitterly cold day, and the man had to walk home in the cold in his sloppy wet clothes. By the time he had arrived home, his clothes were nearly dried out. During his journey home, the fever and heat of his body had rose to a point of a healing climax and reduced. It was a bitterly cold day, and the man had to walk home in the cold with his sloppy, wet clothes. By the time he had arrived home, his clothes were nearly dried out. During his journey home, the fever had and heat of his body had rose to a point of a healing climax and reduced to a nearly normal temperature when he reached home. The lumbago and fever were gone, and he rejoiced. The next time he got lumbago and fever, he knew the cure. He would return to the stream, dunk himself, and walk home again. This story illustrates how hydrotherapy can help the body rid itself of toxins that slow down its bodily function, causing a person to become very weak and all. Very causing a person to become very weak and ill. Briefly describe the 10 phases of the cold sheet treatment. The enema, garlic injection, hydrotherapy, diaphoretic tea, cold sheet treatment, garlic paste, sound sleep, sponge bath, juice therapy, and teaching your patient. The enema. Give your patient an enema using catnip, sage, and red raspberry, and or some similar herb, but preferably catnip. You will want to administer this enema cold. A cold enema will cause the anus and rectal area to contract and retain the fluid until it warms to a body temperature. It will then cause the area to relax and void the fluid and fecal matter. If the patient has had if the patient has a fever, the body will hold the enema longer until the fluid reaches the body's heated temperature. The, lic- the If the patient has a fever, the body will hold the enema longer until the fluid reaches the body's heated temperature. This allows the liquid to stay in the body longer, permeating more dried waste matter and loosening it. Do not use enemas except in the case of emergencies. You want to get the lower, you want to get the bowel to work on its own. Garlic injection. 1 pint of distilled water into a blender. Place the lid on the blender. Turn on, and while the blender is spinning, drop 3 to 5 cloves of garlic depending on the age. Stop the blender while liquefied. Insert the prepared garlic injection, and the syringe and the rectum for the syringe. Use the full pint for an adult and less for a child. Have your patient retain the injection as long as possible before voiding. Keep your patients keep your patients well covered while he or she is retaining the injection. You will find it is easier to retain the liquid if the patient is lying on a slant board or has their buttocks elevated with pillows. Hydro, hydrotherapy. Help him or her into the bath prepared with the diaphoretic herbs. Have the water as hot as your patient can possibly tolerate. Cayenne, dry mustard, and ginger will increase the perspiring of the patient by opening the pores wide wide, allowing heat and moisture to be brought in. And this is very important. Be sure to apply petroleum jelly to genitals before placing patient in the tub. Be sure to apply petroleum jelly to the genitals before placing the patient in the tub. This could cause much discomfort if not followed. You will want to build the fever as fast as possible with moisture. Dry fever is a killer, causing infantile paralysis, brain fever, etc. But moist fevers can go much higher. Used properly, moist fevers will work with the disease germs in removing the sickness from the body. Diaphoretic tea. Because your patient is in a hot tub of water, they will become very thirsty. Do not give them cold drinks. Cold drinks will inhibit the body's ability to perspire and produce a disease fighting fever. Instead, give them a cup of hot diaphoretic tea, such as yarrow or another tea type. You will want to stay with only one type of tea. Have your patient drink as much as possible. This will keep the patient from a dry fever. It will also increase the body's circulation, which will help remove the toxicity from the body. And it will open the body's pores, which will eliminate the toxicity. You should give them a cup to drink about every 10 to 15 minutes. Cold sheet treatment. After you have helped the patient out of the bath, wrap the large double cotton sheet dripping wet from being soaked in ice water around the standing patient. This cold sheet will feel extremely refreshing to your sweating patient. With just the head and the feet protruding, pin the sheet down at the side. Help your patient into the prepared bed that has been covered with plastic and with a cotton sheet. Then place dry cotton sheet covers over the patient while they are still wrapped in the cold sheet. Add additional natural fiber blankets over the top of the sheet for warmth and to continue the sweating routine. You will want fibers, natural fibers, rather than synthetic material. Garlic paste. With the patient lying down in bed, thoroughly massage their feet from the ankles down with olive oil. Allow as much of this oil to be absorbed and into the skin as possible. Allow as much of this oil to be absorbed into the skin as possible, covering the soles, sides, and entire body for me. Absorb into the skin, covering the sole, sides, and the entire foot area. After you have massaged each foot, prepare a strip of cotton that is wide enough to cover the bottom of the foot with half inch of the garlic paste. When this is done, place the strip of cotton with the paste on the sole of the foot. Then take a roll of 2-inch gauze and gently wrap the foot to secure the strip of garlic to the foot. With this in place, gently pull over the foot and gauze, bandage a large white cotton or wool sock to hold everything in place. Cover the whole foot then with plastic wrap in case the patient goes into up in case the patient gets up to go to the bathroom. Sound sleep. In most cases, your patient will sleep soundly in all night in the cold sheet. You do not have to worry about them wanting to get up to urinate because of the large quantity of tea they drank. While the body is in the cold, wet sheet, the subconscious mind will build an artificial fever to warm the body. From this incubation process, the patient's body will use the fluid from the ingested teas and accumulated moisture from their bath to warm the outside of their wet body. This process causes perspiration and draws heavily on the body for moisture to produce its heat, leaving no desire to urinate. While this is being done, the body breaks loose old toxins, drugs and medicines, mucus and poisons which have accumulated and carries them out of the body through the sweating process. Your patient will lie all night in a deep sleep, poisons or sweating out the poisons of their body. Sponge bath. After your patient wakes from their deep sleep, take them out of the bed and sponge them down thoroughly with a warm mixture of 1 part apple cider vinegar and 1 part distilled water. You will probably want 1 quart of solution, so use approximately 1 pint each. This removes any remaining toxic residue from the outer layers of the skin. It is very important that you do not leave the toxic residue on the skin. Sponging off the body will allow the skin to breathe. If the pores remain plugged with residue, it is as if the doors of and windows of a building are closed and stagnation sets in. Juice therapy. Your patient should be by this time have a desire for something to drink or to eat. This is a critical moment for your patient. What they eat will either retain or cause them to lose their health. They may even have cravings from the past. They may desire a steak, a full meal, processed beverages, ice cream, creamy pastries, or other junk food. do not respond to these desires. Instead, give your patient fresh fruit or vegetable juices or bottled or fresh grape juice, apple juice, etc. No, etc. with no additives. Each mouthful of juice should be swished or chewed thoroughly to mix it with the saliva for good assimilation. In addition, chewing your juice will prevent an unpleasant sugar reaction if your patient is hypoglycemic or diabetic. Teaching your patient. After a bad siege of body malfunction, it is wise to instruct the patient why they are in this condition and what to do from this point on to prevent a reoccurrence of the disease. Your patient may get immediate relief from the cold sheet treatment program, but if they do not change their health habits, then they will not be able to retain their health. To work on just the effect and give relief is not a complete program. This sickness has been given as education to teach your patient how to clean up a bad condition as well as how to keep the body in such a condition that there will be no reoccurrences. This is knowledge turned into power, power for a better life, the power for a better life. A higher vibrating body, a body that is clean. God will not dwell in an unclean tabernacle. And an instrument so well turned that it can experience the joy of living. And an instrument so well tuned that it can experience the joy of living and can even tune into the great universal mind. Appendix C ended.